Today on the Morning Edition, evacuations in Juneau. Flooding is expected today after the glacial release of Suicide Basin. We'll have the latest details on what residents need to know as the water rises. Plus,
with regard to the aviation crash rates in our state, we have the highest by far of any state in the country.
U.S. Transportation Secretary Duffy visits Alaska. How he says Trump's big, beautiful bill will help support safety upgrades to our state's aviation infrastructure. And later, a sparkling surprise, how a woman's trip to an Arkansas state park turned into a diamond dream come true. As the Morning Edition starts now. Good Wednesday morning, everyone. Thanks for waking up with us today. A lot going on in Juneau. Yeah, so let's get right to it. What's happening now in Southeast? Those residents in Juneau are on high alert.
Well, the highest forecast that they've done now is 17 feet for flood zone. They don't even have an 18-foot model. Last year, they didn't have a 15 or a 16-foot model until after the fact. So it feels like we're playing catch-up each year.
Flooding is expected to hit historic levels as water levels rise on the Mendenhall River.
City and borough leaders say they are taking no chances, recommending evacuation for just over 1,000 homes and businesses in the area.
That's today's top story. This morning, those residents living in the 17-foot inundation zone are being told they should leave their homes and stay away from the river.
You may remember a similar event in 2023. It swept a house away into fast-moving water. Flooding from Suicide Basin has become the new normal for the Mendenhall Valley, but officials say they've been preparing for this for months. New this year, about 2.5 miles of flood barriers designed to reduce structural damage across Juneau, but the Borough Deputy City Manager Robert Barr says they're not fully in place yet, and the city is still urging nearby residents to leave.
We do have search and rescue capabilities, both with our fire department, with the Coast Guard, with some other specialized teams in town. But our message to the community is that those search and rescue capacities become more and more limited the faster the water starts to flow, because the faster the water starts to flow, the higher it rises, the more debris that is in the river, the greater the risk to our responders and to those teams.
Barr says these outburst floods are something that the Juneau community is going to be dealing with long term.
These kind of happen on almost clockwork now. Not the same day this year, but two days in early August in the past 2 years, and now another day in mid-August this year. It's really starting to becoming a pretty consuming part of our community's brain space.
If needed, the city says shelter space is available at Floyd Dryden Gymnasium. It can hold up to 150 people. Pets are not allowed in the shelter, but they can be boarded at the Juneau Animal Rescue for $5 a day.
And the flood information hotline is live now as well. This is a non-emergency public line that CBJ says is staffed by trained volunteers. They can provide information about shelter, transportation, current conditions, and more. That number is on your screen. It's 907-500-0890. And Tracy, you've been watching the conditions all morning. You've been watching live video. What are things looking like in Juneau right now?
Well, the river's moving very quickly. The river is very high, and we're seeing a lot of debris in the river. I actually saw a tree floating through the river, and that also got a report from the National Weather Service that there were multiple large trees in the river and a lot of debris. So you really want to stay away from the river today in particular. So let's quickly go through what we know has been happening over the last several days. That glacial release is underway. Major flooding is expected. They did ask people in that 17-foot inundation zone to evacuate, and major flood stage was actually reached about midnight. So we're already past moderate into that major flood stage. Just to go over what really has happened is that throughout the summer, Suicide Basin, which is just above Mendenhall Glacier, rises. It fills with water. You get that glacial melt. It fills with water, and then the pressure just makes the ice at the bottom break, and all of that water rushes down underneath Mendenhall Glacier and into the lake, then into the river. Over the last several years, we've been watching this. This is the timeline for last year to kind of give you an idea of what we're expecting. The truth is, it crested last year at 15.99 feet. We're expecting it to go higher than that probably closer to almost 17 feet now is what we're looking at. So we do have that flood warning in place for the area around Mendenhall Glacier and Mendenhall Valley. I also want to just show you what we're looking at now. As I said, the National Weather Service has actually increased what they think the crest is going to be and moved it a little bit earlier. So latest, as of about 4 o'clock, we are at 15.4 feet of rising. As we said, we're into major flood stage. And then the crest, we expect to be closer to 16.75 feet. And while at one point we were saying 8 to noon, actually the National Weather Service says it will be closer. So it's looking earlier and higher than originally expected. Kristen?
All right, thanks, Tracy. An asylum seeker was arrested by ICE in Anchorage Monday. That's according to that person's attorney, who tells Alaska's news source her client was arrested when arriving to work at a sushi restaurant.
He's got a very strong asylum case, but they decided to grab him, and it was apparently based on false information that they had that he had been convicted of a DWI. He hasn't been charged with DWI or convicted of DWI, but that's the government's excuse for grabbing him.
30-year-old Santiago Ortiz Martinez is waiting for a decision on his asylum application to remain in the United States. His attorney, Margaret Stock, from whom you just heard, says he's been in the United States for more than 8 years. As Stock mentioned, there is no record of Martinez being charged for a DUI in Alaska's district court system. He was fined in traffic court earlier this year for driving without proof of insurance. That case is now closed. Martinez was granted a work permit while awaiting a decision on his case. ICE has not responded to our request for comment. Dated aviation infrastructure in Alaska is leading to unsafe flying conditions. That's according to U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who said recent funding from the Trump administration will go towards shoring up flying safety. Political reporter Will Courtney was at the Ted Stevens International Airport as Duffy spoke Tuesday and tells us how this new investment in Alaska aviation may save lives.
We are going to work with you to make sure you get the upgrades that are necessary to radically improve the safety in aviation in Alaska.
Visiting Alaska, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and the state's congressional delegation touted new funding aimed for aviation in Alaska, largely from the Big Beautiful Bill. Duffy and FAA Administrator Brian Bedford said that the investment will be for new infrastructure.
We're deploying technologies like Starlink and looking at other satellite-based technologies to enhance the reliability of weather and weather cameras. So we are thinking about things differently up here than we might down in the lower 48. But these are solutions that work here.
But their meeting comes with the stark reality of the stakes, too.
With regard to the aviation crash rates in our state, we have the highest by far of any state in the country, 2.3 times higher crash rates in the lower 48 for Alaskan aviators.
The last time the delegation stood next to the secretary was after 10 people died when a plane crashed into the Bering Sea in February. In preliminary findings, the National Transportation Safety Board said that the plane was several hundred pounds overweight. So far, 50 plane accidents have happened in the state this year, according to the NTSB.
We need better technology. We need some investments in a state where 82% of our communities can't be reached by road.
I asked Secretary Duffy about that February crash, and he says he's still waiting for the NTSB to finish their investigation. Will Courtney, Alaska's news source.
The Secretary of Transportation was also given a tour of the Don Young Port of Alaska, where he was joined by the Alaska's delegation and Anchorage Mayor Suzanne LaFrance. LaFrance said the tour was meant to give Secretary Duffy the opportunity to see firsthand how the port supports the state by handling roughly 50% of all freight entering Alaska. She also spoke on the need for federal funding to modernize the cargo hub.
The municipality has a role. The state also has funded a portion of the port projects of the PAMP. And having those three entities supporting the modernization of the port is absolutely critical.
The modernization project is a massive effort aimed at replacing aging infrastructure. It's estimated to cost at least $2 billion and take another decade to complete. Meantime, the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Secretary Scott Turner is also in Alaska, promising to consider changes to housing and homelessness. During his trip, he's witnessing firsthand some of the issues facing urban and rural Alaskans. Turner said HUD is reviewing and attempting to streamline all of its programs, adding that the agency, in his view, lost focus during the Biden administration.
I know here in Alaska, which is part why I'm here, that affordable housing is a big issue. And so we want to go put our feet on the ground to see it, to understand, to hear, and say, okay, how can we work together to build more affordable housing in our country, but in particularly here in the great state of Alaska.
Turner heard concerns that HUD's current funding formula shortchanges cities like Anchorage, where homeless rates are high. Turner said he would take those concerns to the White House for consideration. He heads to Bethel next as part of his Alaska trip. Coming up, tending to your garden can be tough when small critters are nibbling your hard work. We'll share some advice on how to prevent pesky pests from making a meal out of our homegrown veggies in this week's Arctic Gardens next.
And here are your daylight hours across the state. Let me give those up. There they are, those daylight hours. Sunrise and sunset times, 6:04 here in the Anchorage area. Fairbanks, 5:32 for your sunrise, 6:15 in Juneau. We are waiting to see what the river looks like as the sun comes up this morning, and 6:54 for you in Bethel. I'll have your forecast next.
Welcome back on this Wednesday morning with your view of Brooks Falls at Katmai National Park. And at least we can't see any bears, but Tracy, I don't know, we got rain, bugs, or both? What do you think?
Yes, a little bit of rain and a few bugs flying through. And the reason it looks this way is it is in night vision mode, right? And so that's why those raindrops going through look like streaks on your camera, but it is actually just some rain coming through the Katmai area. And you can see what we're expecting over the next couple days. There is that broad strip of rain from northern Alaska down all the way into the Kodiak area. Now, Anchorage, much as South Central, we don't really expect to see a lot of rain come through with this, but we could see a little bit. We did get a lot of rain yesterday in Kotzebue. You guys broke the record, hit 0.96 inches of rain. That's a lot of rain for you in one day. You broke the record, which had been set, I think, back in 1989, and that was of 0.6 inches of rain. So yes, got a lot of rain yesterday, still seeing some rain this morning, and we do expect some of that to break up by the afternoon. The system's still kind of lingering in northwest Alaska, but we are also watching another system kind of redevelop in the Gulf of Alaska. That's going to bring some rain into southeast Alaska, mainly in the southern portions of the Panhandle, which is good because, of course, we're already dealing with that flooding around Mendenhall Lake, Mendenhall River. We don't really need any additional rain going through. Right now, it is, of course, associated with that glacial outburst. For today, as I said, we're seeing that rain in northwest Alaska from Kotzebue to Nome. Maybe a few lingering showers this morning around Bethel. Also for you in Dillingham, Kodiak, that rain is going to pick up in your area. Utqiagvik, again, some light rain expected. But overall, we're going to see some sunshine in southeast Alaska. You get to enjoy a little bit of sun coming through. High temperatures in the low 70s for many locations. So check it out. Haines, Skagway, Juneau, Ketchikan, all dealing with some nice warm temperatures. Also dense fog, though. We've got 2 dense fog advisories in place this morning. That's around Yakutat and also around the Petersburg area. So be cautious, reduced visibility through this morning. And then, of course, as we said, we will keep watch on the flooding situation around the Mendenhall Valley. Into the interior, another day of some mostly sunny skies and warmer temperatures. Your high temperatures today expected to get to about 70 degrees in most locations. A little bit cooler for you in the Healy area, but Tok, 71, 70 in Delta Junction, and 72 expected around the areas into Fort Yukon. We're also looking at a few clouds developing probably tomorrow into the interior. But for the Kenai Peninsula, mostly cloudy skies coming through today. Temperatures cooler than we've been seeing. Will only be into the upper 50s. This is pretty consistent throughout the region. We're also a chance to see some rain showers, a few rain showers pretty consistently. Wherever you are in South Central, you have that opportunity. Mostly cloudy skies and cooler around Prince William Sound, and mostly cloudy and at least a little bit cooler into the valley as well. High temperatures only into the mid to low 60s. Might not even get into the mid 60s. For the Anchorage area, That's what we're looking like as well. We're looking at mostly cloudy skies today, a high of about 63, maybe even a little bit cooler than that. I went bold and put 63 degrees. Mostly cloudy to cloudy on Thursday and again on Friday, but you start to see that warm up returning. And then as we get into the weekend, decreasing clouds for our Saturday and Sunday. We're looking at some sunshine into the area. By Monday, we're going to hold on to the sunshine and temperatures into the upper 60s, so it should be a nice weekend.
Well, it is that slow slide into fall, and hopefully your garden is looking lovely, but you might have noticed some pesky pests. Tracy Sinclair looks at how to combat these ravenous nibblers in this week's Arctic Gardens.
Well, we are getting closer to fall, and it's getting a little more rainy outside, and as gardeners, we know what this means. Slugs. Yeah. Garden slugs are a fact of life in Alaska.
We've learned that most people have just a really high population of slugs.
Like a lot. At the Matsu Experimental Farm and Extension Center in Palmer, they've estimated between 250,000 and 600,000 slugs per acre.
So the gray garden slug is a very common, it's an anthropogenic slug. It follows people everywhere. It's everywhere we garden. It shows up pretty much. It's been in Alaska for as long as we've had agriculture in Alaska. We've had them here on the farm since the 20s.
With so many slugs, they're tough to get rid of.
The pesticides to kill the slug don't really work because there's just too many slugs to move right back in after you kill a bunch of them.
So that means you have to kill the slugs in your garden and put up barriers to stop more from creeping in.
You can get low-volt electric fences that work really effectively at keeping slugs out of your raised beds.
We're talking low voltage, like 9 volts. At the experimental farm, they're also trying out a physical barricade.
We've been developing a bent metal fence, so it's like a twice bent fence that just sort of deters slugs from climbing around the fence and getting into the plot.
Another option, removing the vegetation from around your garden.
Changing so you don't have directly lawn up to the garden. So you're putting in maybe a gravel pathway that's generally dry, but it's devoid of vegetation. And so for a slug to get from your lawn all the way over to where your garden is, they've actually got to cross this open area that they don't really like.
Joey did remind me that slugs are beneficial. They're good decomposers. It's just when they get into the plants we want that they're annoying. But he says, not dangerous.
We don't have pathogens spread by the slugs that we have in Alaska. They can be annoying as they destroy some of our crops and stuff, but there's nothing to worry about. They're not carrying any diseases.
So even if a slug nibbles on your cabbage, and it will, it's okay to eat. Just give it a good wash first. Tracy Sinclair, Alaska's news source. Now, I do tear off the leaves that have been nibbled on by the slugs. They still creep me out.
Yeah, I already washed my fruits and veggies, but after watching this, I'm going to give them an extra scrub now.
Yeah, and they want to know about the slugs in your area. The UAF Cooperative Extension Service wants to know about the slugs. You can find their link to their slug and snail reporting system on our website. And if you can't get enough of slugs, because we know we love them, I have this great little web extra where I time-lapsed some slugs in my garden.
Yeah.
It's only about 30 seconds long. It's interesting, and you can find that in the story on our website.
It is interesting. I saw it. You just see all those little slugs you would never think. Just they're doing their thing, just living their life all over
my
cabbage. Your hard work. Oh, man. All right. Thanks, Tracy. In Fairbanks, the public will once again have access to a historic landmark thanks to ongoing renovations to the SS Nenana in Pioneer Park. Public access to the historic ship has been closed for several years. This summer, contractors have been replacing rotten wood and say the project will be completed by adding a waterproof membrane to the new surface. Officials say now that the bow is open to the public again, they'll be able to utilize the space in many ways.
Get a feeling of what it was like to go down the rivers, you know, and besides for the public access, we also get to go back to having Army bands and speakers stand up there on the bow and talk to people, which is just a real nice touch when we're having public events around here.
The cost of renovations is adding up to more than $2.5 million. The renovations are expected to wrap up before winter.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcasts from Alaska's news source automatically and stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's News Source app.